husband's family owns a horse boarding stable, and I have 5 horses of my own to care for. I was not into horses my whole life. I'm later in life horse owner. I got my first horse at 34, and I am now 43. So anybody can join it at any time. Come along, let's go do some chores. Now, I did mention in my intro that this is my husband and his family's boarding stable. When I first came here 9 years ago, I had a love for horses. I had rode horses. I had never owned a horse. It was just one of those things that I had to grow up and pay the bills, right? And I managed to acquire a horse from a friend, and I needed somewhere to keep it. Now, while I could ride and while I knew a lot about horses, I didn't know a lot about taking care of horses. I didn't know a lot about taking care of their tack or properly fitting tack or feeding or anything about that. I was green because up until that point, I just followed whatever instructions the horse owner gave me. Now, I can tell you that there is an unspoken currency at every barn. It's not skill. It's not how quiet your hands are or how well you read a horse's ears or whether you actually see what's happening in front of you. It's years. How long you've owned, like a subscription service, and the longer you've paid into it, the more your opinion is allowed to count. Nobody actually says this out loud. Nobody puts a sign on a gate. It's just, you feel it though. Usually about within a week of showing up someplace new. So I personally didn't have the years, but I had something else. I have a brain that takes in everything. I am your big picture person. Yes, there are a lot of little details in there, and I see them. I might not recognize them right away. I might not be able to tell you what I saw, but I know that I saw something. Like I notice the small shifts in weight before a horse plants its feet, or I can clock the tension on a lead rope before it becomes a problem. I just pick up those things fast. It's just how my brain works. It grabs onto the details, but it doesn't tell me what the details are, but it doesn't let go, and it doesn't really ask permission before it does it. But I found out pretty quickly that fast doesn't buy you anything at a barn. Fast is actually suspicious. Fast means you skip something. Never mind that I hadn't skipped anything. I just got in there a different way than anyone expected. So there I was, less time in a saddle that I actually owned than almost everyone around me, and somehow already seeing things that they weren't. That's not me being arrogant about it. It's just how my brain works. It's not a virtue. It's just wiring. But try explaining wiring to someone who's decided your input doesn't count until you've clocked enough hours to earn it. Like there was a point where I had an obsession over my horse's saddle fit because I knew that saddle fit could be a problem. And I just knew that my horse was built differently. I did not realize that she was what we call a mutton wither, that she's larger across the front. She's just put together funny. I don't even know what breed or crossbreeds this horse is. I just know that she's amazing and she's loved, and that's all that really matters. But finding a saddle to fit her was a difficult task. So because of this, I was constantly examining and re-examining sweat marks after a ride, and I had somebody tell me that they were going to lose their cool on me if I pulled my saddle off and started analyzing the sweat marks one more time after a ride. Now, I can also tell you that because the saddle didn't fit right, I kept getting bucked off. If the mare was in pain, she was going to let you know it, and I'd end up on the ground. But I couldn't explain my theory to anybody because it just seemed to fall on deaf ears. Not because it was wrong. I'd later find out it wasn't wrong. It just came from the wrong mouth. The wrong number of years attached to it. I want to be clear, too. This wasn't one bad day with one dismissive person. This was a pattern. A repeated, predictable thing that happened enough times that I stopped being surprised by it and started just quietly cataloging it. Which, honestly, is very on brand for how my brain works. But here's what I've come to believe. And I'd argue this louder if I thought more people were ready to hear it. Paying attention is its own kind of experience. It doesn't always look like years. Sometimes it looks like someone who's been here 8 months and already knows exactly what a horse's ears are telling them before it becomes a problem. That's not luck. That's not a shortcut. That's a different way of putting in the time, through focus instead of just repetition. Think about what years of experience actually means at its core. It means someone has been exposed to a lot of moments over and over until the pattern actually started to stick. That's valuable. Nobody's arguing it isn't. But exposure isn't the only path to pattern recognition. Some people need to see something 40 times before it clicks. Some people need to see it twice and it's locked in, filed away, ready to be pulled out the next time it matters. Neither one is cheating. They're just different roads to the same destination, knowing what you're looking at. There's actually a lot of research on this outside horses entirely. The idea that expertise isn't only built through duration, it's built through the quality of attention paid during the duration. 2 people can spend the same 10 years doing the same job, and one of them genuinely gets 10 years of learning out of it, while the other one gets a year repeated 10 times, because they stopped really watching a while ago. Time is not the same thing as growth. It's just a container growth sometimes happens in. Some people fill that container fast. Some fill it slow. The container itself was never the point. And I think barns, and honestly any community built around skill, would be better off if they made room for that. Not instead of years, just alongside them. Because the people who notice fast and the people who've earned their knowledge slowly are usually seeing the same horse from two different angles, and both angles are useful. One isn't a lesser version of the other. Imagine a barn where both got listened to at the same volume, where I've done this for a decade, and I just watched this happen, I'm confident about what it means, carried equal weight until proven otherwise, instead of one needing to prove itself before it was even considered. I'm going to say that barn would catch more problems earlier. It would waste less time, and it would be safer, honestly, for the horses and the people both. I mean, I think about the horses and all this too, because they're the ones with the most at stake and the least to say about how this hierarchy gets enforced. A horse doesn't care about who's been around the longest. A horse responds to whoever reads it accurately in the moment it needs reading. If the accurate read comes from the newest person in the barn, the horse doesn't reject it on principle. Only people do that. Only we've built a system where the right answer can be ignored because of who's holding it. If there's someone at your barn or even in your life who sees things quickly, who clocks the shift before anyone else does, who says something that turns out to be right 3 weeks later, that's worth listening to now, not just after they've proven it enough times to earn the right to be heard. Waiting for proof before you'll consider someone's read costs you time. It costs the horse too, honestly, if the read was about the horse's well-being. Every time a good observation gets shelved because of who said it, that's a small loss. String enough of those together and it's not small anymore. Even more so, multiply it across the whole barn, a whole community, over years, and you'll start to see how much good information just evaporates because nobody was willing to hear it from the wrong mouth. And since I'm on this soapbox, I might as well say this goes beyond horses. It's true in workplaces. It's true in families. It's true anywhere someone with less official time notices something real and has to fight to be taken seriously about it. The instinct to gatekeep credibility behind tenure is everywhere, and it's rarely about actual accuracy. It's about comfort. It's more comfortable to trust a familiar hierarchy than to sit and watch the fact that someone newer might have seen something you missed. But comfort and correctness aren't the same thing, and the sooner a group can tell the difference, the stronger that group gets. I'd go further, actually. I think that groups that survive and improve over time are the ones that get good at separating who said it from is it true. That's a harder skill than it sounds like. It goes against instinct, but it is learnable. For me personally, I've learned to trust what I notice. I learned to say it out loud instead of waiting for permission. Not because I stopped respecting the people around me with more time in. I still do, genuinely. Their years taught them things I haven't lived through yet, and I know that. But because I finally understood that noticing is a skill in its own right. It's not a placeholder for experience. It's a form of it. Different shape, same value. I stopped treating my own read as something that needed a cosign before it counted, and that shift changed more than just how I show up at the barn. It changed how I show up everywhere. So if you're the person in the room who sees things fast and has been told to wait your turn before anyone will believe you, don't wait. Say what you see. Let it be tested. Let it be wrong sometimes, because it will be, and that's fine too. Being wrong occasionally is the cost of being willing to speak at all, and it's a small cost compared to staying silent every time. But don't sit on a good read just because you haven't been around long enough to be allowed to have one. And if you're the person with the years, the ones who've earned their knowledge the long way through repetition and time and mistakes made and survived, consider extending the same openness to people around you who haven't put in the years yet, but who are clearly paying attention. You might be surprised what you learn from someone who's only been doing this for 8 months. I know I've been surprised on the other side of that conversation by how much changes when someone finally just listens. It doesn't cost you anything to consider it. It doesn't diminish your years to admit someone else got somewhere useful by a different road. I mean, let's be real here. The horses aren't waiting for your credentials. They respond to what's true at the moment, not how long you've been showing up to see it. Neither should the rest of us wait that long to listen to each other. Whatever room you're standing in, a barn, a job, a family, the same thing is probably true there too. Somebody in that room already sees something worth hearing. The only question is whether anybody's willing to listen before the years catch up. Okay, I'm done with my soapbox now. I think we should probably turn this into a series. I think we'll call it Lessons from the Barn. I don't know. What do you think? Leave a comment below. Also, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss anything. I am trying to vlog every day between now and when I have to go back to work. We'll see how that's going in a couple days. But until then, I'll see you again. Bye.